Battle of Tours by Muhammad Al-Amrani. Before the clash even began, the Franks and all of Christian Europe were gripped with fear, terrified of the formidable Muslim army advancing from Iberia, an army whose discipline, speed and battlefield brilliance had become legendary across continents. And so, in the year 732 AD or 113 Hijri, the fate of Europe trembled on the edge of a sword. This is the Battle of Tours, or Poitiers, a moment in history where a single confrontation shaped the destiny of nations. The Muslim forces, led by the seasoned commander Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi, marched with confidence, experience and the momentum of decades of victory. Before them stood the Franks under Charles Martel, uncertain, anxious, but determined. Both sides understood something few battles ever carry: the weight of continents. Had the Umayyad army won this battle, world history would have changed forever. Muslim forces would have swept deeper into Europe, advancing through France, into Germany, the Netherlands, and likely the rest of the continent. The map of modern Europe, its culture, its languages, its faiths, would be unrecognizable today. Instead, the battle ended in one of history's most debated turning points. The clash was brutal, chaotic, and relentless. Charles Martel's infantry formed a defensive wall of shields, absorbing wave after wave of cavalry charges, while Abd al-Rahman led from the front with unmatched courage. But in the confusion of the night, and surrounded by unfamiliar terrain, the Muslim army reorganized, withdrew, and preserved its strength rather than risk total loss. The Franks claimed victory, yet both sides knew the truth. No empire rises or falls from a single moment, but some moments echo for centuries. It is a tense October morning. The air is cold, the ground firm beneath the marching feet of the Frankish army. At their head stands Charles Martel. As the enemy crests the horizon, he calls out a few final words of encouragement, steadying the hearts of his men for what is about to unfold. From across the field, a wave of Umayyad cavalry surges forward, steel glinting, blades drawn, riding with the force and confidence of a seasoned empire. Their charge bears down on the immovable Frankish shield wall. The confrontation at Tours, one that will echo far beyond its own time, has begun. Background. In the decades leading to this fateful clash, the Islamic world had expanded with remarkable speed. The Umayyad Caliphate now stretched from the mountains of Khorasan to the shores of Tripolitania, forming one of the largest empires the world had yet seen. Arab and Berber armies had crossed into the Visigothic kingdom, toppling King Roderick in a single decisive battle. Their victory opened the door to the rapid conquest of Hispania. Aquila attempted to claim the Visigothic throne, but was pushed into Septimania, only for that region too to fall under Umayyad rule. With their authority now pressing against the southern borders of the Frankish realms, Odo of Aquitaine watched with increasing alarm. In Al-Andalus, the governor Al-Sam consolidated power and laid siege to Carcassonne. His later attempt to seize Toulouse ended in disaster when Prince Odo's daring night assault shattered the Umayyad forces. Command of the survivors passed to Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi, a noble Arab respected for his character, his piety, and his courage. His close connection to the family of Umar, one of the early caliphs, further strengthened his standing. Though briefly replaced by a senior governor who saw him as overly generous to defeated troops, Al-Rahman would return to authority, ruling again from Narbonne, near the old battlefield where Odo had once halted Umayyad expansion. Aquitaine and the Franks' Odo's victory at Toulouse did not represent a united Christian effort. He had sought aid from Charles Martel, the most powerful figure among the Franks. But Charles refused, preoccupied with internal turmoil. Upon the death of Pepin of Herstal, the Frankish kingdoms fractured. Civil war shook the realm, and Charles Martel fought his way to dominance. During this chaotic period, Odo of Aquitaine asserted near independence, ruling a region that had long acted on its own terms. An agreement between the two leaders eventually stabilized relations. Charles would acknowledge Odo's authority in Aquitaine, and Odo in turn surrendered custody of King Chilperic II, whom Charles used to legitimize his own rule. Meanwhile, tensions simmered in Al-Andalus. Arab elites and Berber warriors clashed politically and socially. When a Berber uprising erupted in North Africa, Munusa, a governor in the Pyrenees, revolted against Umayyad authority. He forged an alliance with Odo, secured through marriage to Odo's daughter. For Al-Rahman, this was an intolerable betrayal. Determined to settle the matter, he prepared an invasion of Aquitaine. He organized his forces, travelled through his province, and gathered an army in Pamplona, its exact size still debated but certainly formidable. The Umayyad advance. While Charles Martel focused on local Frankish politics, Umayyad raiders pushed into lands under his nominal control. They reached as far as Autun, which they burned. Charles responded by raiding Aquitaine, viewing Odo as the more immediate threat. In the south, Al-Rahman crushed Munusa's revolt, driving him into the mountains where he perished. With the rebellion extinguished, the Umayyad army marched into Aquitaine. Avoiding the routes that had previously led to disaster, they moved west, striking at the heart of Odo's realm. Odo rallied his Gascon and Basque forces along the Garonne, hoping to repeat past victories. But this time he was overwhelmed. Bordeaux fell, churches burned, its people slain, and the Umayyad army grew rich with plunder. Pursuing Odo northward, they defeated him again, forcing the Aquitanian leader to seek help from the very man who had once refused him, Charles Martel. Charles gathered his forces, crossed into the region, and prepared to defend Tours. The Umayyads spent months raiding the countryside before regrouping and marching toward Poitiers. They sacked the wealthy abbey of Saint-Hilaire and advanced toward the famed abbey of Saint-Martin. But their path was blocked. Charles Martel had arrived. The battle near Tours. Facing the advancing Franks, the Umayyad forces fell back to a stronger defensive position between river valleys. For days, the two armies watched one another, clashing only in small skirmishes, each waiting for the decisive moment. Charles' army was built around solid infantry, veteran fighters interspersed with fresh militia. Odo led a small but crucial cavalry contingent. The Umayyads, by contrast, were a highly mobile, mostly mounted force, arrayed in their traditional formation: wings, centre, vanguard and rear guard. Their camp lay on high ground, partially screened by wooded terrain. When the final day arrived, the Umayyads charged. Time and again they hurled themselves against the Frankish ranks, trying to break the dense shield wall. But Charles's infantry held, unyielding, disciplined, absorbing the shock of every assault. Then came a pivotal moment. In the afternoon, Odo led a wide flanking manoeuvre and struck directly at the Umayyad camp. Though fiercely defended, likely by the rear guard, Odo's attack threw the Muslim army into disarray. Realizing their camp was in danger, Al-Rahman pulled his troops back to defend it. Charles seized the opportunity. He ordered a full counterattack. the Frankish infantry surged forward, driving into the disrupted Umayyad lines. Amid the brutal melee, Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi fell. Even so, the Umayyad army did not collapse. They fought stubbornly and even pushed back the Franks as night descended. Charles withdrew to his camp, preparing for another day of battle. But by morning the field was silent. During the night the Umayyads had withdrawn in good order, leaving behind their camp, their prisoners, and a vast trove of loot, heavy plunder that slowed any potential retreat and prevented a determined Frankish pursuit. Aftermath, Charles Martel turned north, leaving the remnants of the invaders to be dealt with by Odo. The great clash near Tours ended not with annihilation, but with a decisive halt to Umayyad expansion into the heart of Francia. Charles had successfully blocked their advance toward the Abbey of St. Martin and achieved a victory that would shape his legacy. Yet the story did not end there. The Umayyads maintained a presence in the region for years, and only under Charles's son, Pepin, were they finally expelled from Narbonne. Meanwhile, in Al-Andalus, their rule endured, and the long struggle known as the Reconquista would stretch across centuries.